to weigh my tears. Not even in a million years can I ever repay you for what you've done for me. You were there when I fell, but there was no place for me. You were there to show me how to truly believe in the miracle of creation, in the good and the bad. Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Nazir bin Nasib from OutstandingMuslimParents.com here at Huda TV on an incredible series called Outstanding Parents. Okay, and if you don't know, then you definitely should know that this is the zone where we encourage parents to be outstanding. Okay, there's way too many people that are average, and as soon as you recognize that average is nothing but the top of the bottom or the bottom of the top, then you recognize outstanding is really where it's at. Now, alhamdulillah, if you don't already have something to write with and something to write on and take some copious notes, I would encourage you to do so, because today's episode, we're going to talk about something that's very, very important. Now, of course, I think that all of the episodes we've done contain important materials. However, important with this episode means very challenging. Okay, and what we're going to talk really about is teenagers. Yeah, I'm sure that you recognize what the challenging thing means in this aspect. Well, teenagers, traditionally, they've already come of age. They're already accountable. And their struggle for independence continues, but gets that much more strong in this time frame. Now, one of the things that we must do as parents, in addition to having patience, now mind you, patience does not mean just waiting on something passively. Patience, you're being diligent on it, you're working on it, and in time things will come, but you're actually doing something, you're taking some effort. Okay, and it's taking some strength on your part for that sabr, for that patience. So, nevertheless, in addition to this patience, we must also use our wisdom to remember when we were teenagers. Okay, because if we remember when we were teenagers, then we'll likely remember some of the challenges maybe we put our parents through. Now, the other thing that we also have to remember is when we were teenagers, things were a lot different than they are right now. Now, similarly, our parents, when they were teenagers, things were different, but not like the leap right now. When I was a teenager, for example, cell phones were just being invented. I mean, DVD players weren't even out yet. I remember seeing what was called a laser disc player, and the disc was huge. It looked like a record for those of us who remember records. It was big like a record. They called it a laser disc player. And when they became mass market, small DVD players. Nevertheless, they cost a lot of money and so on. The point is, things have not only changed technologically, but they've changed culturally since when I was a teenager and where things are now. And I mention it frequently because it is so blatant that when I was growing up, the homosexual agenda was more kept undercover, if you will, more of an underground thing. It wasn't something to just go out and just be showing to the world, even though you had some individuals that would do that. But now it's like it's turned really into this movement, so much so that large politicians like Obama has endorsed gay marriage now. So now they have this whole thing about gay people adopting children now and establishing them as family, you know what I'm saying? So, subhanAllah, we need to stay away from this type of thing. But now it's out and being promoted. The NAACP, a civil rights organization, now wants to actually consider that a civil right. I still never understood how something that a person does regarding their behavior is a civil right, just as, you know, when people are, you know, born a certain nationality. Very interesting. Nevertheless, that's not the issue. The issue is that the society has changed dramatically from, again, when I was a teenager, like when you were a teenager, to right now. And the pressures that are on our children are even more, especially due to today's technology. So today, inshallah, we're going to talk about recognizing the growth of our babies, because our children at teenagers and older are still going to be our babies. These are going to be the ones that we remember raising or giving birth to, and at least the women remember giving birth to them. But we will remember raising them, teaching them, seeing the milestones and things and so on in their lives as they grow. So we can reflect on it and we can really see that progress, subhanAllah, that happened from birth to teenager and beyond. And inshallah ta'ala, when they get married and they become parents and so on and so forth, just kind of the cycle of life. But as they become teenagers, again, their hormones start changing and they are not only accountable, but now these are young men and young women. And we deal with young men and young women in a different fashion than we just deal with traditional children, preteen, before they come of age or younger. So we have to be aware of things more. We have to be aware of the things that are around them. If we're not aware of the things that are around them or the pressures that are around them, then we really can't help. Or we help from a distance. Or even worse than helping from a distance is being naive. Oh, my son or my daughter would never do that. I had a situation occur where a boy at the Muslim school that my daughter used to attend says some blatantly racist stuff and really insulted my daughter and my family and so on and so forth. So I saw his father and spoke with his father, and he really wasn't connected to where the youth are today, if you will. So he said, he's been having trouble lately and stuff like this, but every time I see him, he's reciting Quran and doing so on and so forth. However, he's received warnings about his son's behavior. So in front of him, his son recites Quran and tries to put this pious act on, but as soon as he gets away from his father, it's on. His behavior comes out in a totally different fashion. So I talked to the boy, he apologized, and alhamdulillah, we moved on from that point. But the issue was that his father was totally out of touch with his son. Now, his son was 12, 13, 14, something, or about 13 maybe at the time. This incident occurred, and his father was older, but again, still was out of touch. His father doesn't know the landscape. So again, knowing this landscape is extremely important. We have to make it a study. It's not just something that will just happen. Again, being naive and thinking your son or daughter isn't doing something is easily allowing them to get away with all kinds of stuff, especially in today's society. So again, not saying that your child just has to be getting involved with things. I'm saying that the pressure is strong and the pull is strong. So we should be cognizant enough or conscious enough to be able to see a difference in behavior, or be able to see different things that go on, or seeing how technology is playing a role or coming into my home and I don't like it, or some things that are even being done un-Islamic. So we're of course going to be talking about technology and some warnings. Matter of fact, let's do that now. With the internet, for example, it's in the pocket. Internet is instant gratification. In your pocket, meaning it's on a smartphone, it's on an iPad or a tablet or a device, it's on a laptop in the room, it's wireless, it's at Starbucks, it's wherever you want to be, kind of like Visa, right? So the thing is, it's instant gratification. When I was younger, if I didn't know a term, I would have to ask my mother, ask my father. So, and they would say, get a dictionary most of the time. So you have to go to a dictionary, look it up, try to find the meaning, and so on and so forth. Now there's really no need for that. You can go to dictionary.com if you're looking for a definition, but if you really want something, you could just wiki it, right? Go to Wikipedia, and you can look it up, get the history, find this and that out instantly at the fingertips. When I was younger, if we were trying to talk about athletes and their different stats, we can have an argument about it and ask a third party. Hey, what do you know about this athlete, or didn't he do this during this game? Well, it may be an argument, somebody else have to come and step in, or we have to go research or look it up on microfilm or something, right? Now there's no need for that. Now you can just look it up on Google in your hand right away, find out the answer, find out what's going on. Well, since that instant gratification is there, since it's so easy for our children to get, we need to know what our children are involved with, what they're doing, what they're likely involved with. Well, more importantly, make sure that we are not inadvertently disempowering our children. Make sure we're not giving them something in their hands that they're going to go and start creating all kinds of fitna with. For example, with social media networks, do you know whether or not your child has a Facebook profile? If they have a Facebook profile, are you on it? Have you seen it? Have you monitored it? Are you one of their friends? More importantly, are you part of their real Facebook profile? Do they have a hidden one set up in a different name or something? It's really a shame because my daughters, they don't have a profile that I know of, but I do know that I help them investigate different stuff online and so on, but they've come across some of their friends or some people that they went to school with, for example, or some acquaintances that have profiles. Now, these are sisters. They may be an imam's daughter or a community leader and stuff like that. But in school, these young women are covered. I mean, they have the khimar on and abaya and so on, but not on the social networks. So this phone that they may have, do you know whether or not they're taking pictures of the phone, taking pictures of themselves without being uncovered, putting out for the internet, dispersing it to everybody at will? Not knowing, you're being naive. Many people don't even understand that. Or texting it, sending it to someone else. You know? Think about it. Do you know if that's happening? Do you know what photos they take in the phone and stuff like that? Did you purchase the phone, give it to them, and just expect it to be? Did you have rules and regulations about it? Did you have a discussion about, how to utilize it best? Because again, with technology and with social networks, it can be a double-edged sword. It can help you, all right, achieve a goal or an objective. But it can also hurt when it's not used properly, almost like anything else. So again, we have to be cognizant that we are being clear about the rules and regulations, but more importantly, we need a way to check up on that. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll talk about some differences and we'll talk about some different technologies and stuff like that will go ahead and help during that time. But some of the devices, just briefly, iPhones, iPads, smartphones, laptops, as I mentioned earlier, are very, very dangerous when not used properly. And they're very, very good when they are utilized properly. The difference is we have to have rules and regulations and controls to make sure our children aren't inadvertently just putting themselves out there because they don't know any better or they're being rebellious and not following the rules. Again, as a parent, we want to protect them and at the same time give them enough freedom. But there must be a balance. And inshallah ta'ala, when we come back, we're going to talk about some resources and some other things that we can do to help build an understanding and agreement, especially with our teenagers. So hold on. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be back shortly. And I look forward to going into the second part of this episode where we offer some good advice and strategies. All right, be back in a second, inshallah. Stay tuned.
Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Welcome to another live edition of Hada Tonight. This program provides some of the latest news and information from around the Muslim world and also discussions about topics that are important for Muslim life.
Brothers and sisters, the Islamic perspective on divorce. It's an outlet which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for any relationship that has gone sour or an abusive relationship. But this principle of divorce has its rules and has its procedures.
For our first news item for the news segment tonight, we're going to go to the United States, the state of Kansas, the Muslim community there in the United States, the state of Kansas. The city is Kansas City.
Talk is communication. In order to communicate, you have to make sure that exactly you tell or you told the other or the partner the real thing about yourself.
Tonight we're going to talk about, inshallah, Abdullah ibn Abbas. And what I wanted to start off with, we all know that he was very young when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So let's start from the beginning, from his youth.
Time is very important and precious. Many of us in our youth and the Muslim Ummah doesn't know the value of time. And even if we think we know, sometimes we face difficulty and challenges understanding and managing your schedule on a daily basis.
Oh, how I love you, Mom and Dad.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back. Okay, now I mentioned that I want to talk about some strategies to really help get agreement and understanding and so on, but I also want to talk about something else as well. Earlier I mentioned how they have access to everything, pretty much at the tip of their fingers or their thumbs, right? And not only is it dangerous when it comes to texting and driving and so on, but there's also so much filth. There's so much fitna. There's so much pornography and nudity and other things that are at the tips of their fingers. So again, we must be vigilant in testing and seeing where our children are. All right, not to be naive, because again, if we're the ones that gave them this device and they're using this device in all kind of other ways, or they're using applications to hide what they're doing, or they're erasing their history, I mean, it's a little difficult to track necessarily what's going on. And then we don't want to cross the line where some suspicion is sin. So we want to have an agreement and also be able to check stuff out. That's our responsibility as parents. And as a parent, there's really not much right to privacy, if you will. Okay, they live in our home and everything else. So again, we need to have agreement with them and understanding with them so that we're building together our relationship as opposed to tearing it down, so that we're respecting their rights and desire for independence, knowing they're going on the right path, or at least doing everything we can to help them be on that right path and not be naive. Okay, the last thing you want to do is be naive. Next thing you know, somebody comes up, pregnant, or somebody comes up with some disease, or somebody comes up at a party, or now you're getting exposed to something because your daughter or your son's pictures are out there on the internet everywhere. Because once it's out, it's gone. It's hard to get back. All right, I kind of heard it like when I heard the story about riba, about gossip, and it said, if you follow along, it said, there was a kid who lied on this religious individual. So the kid he lied on a religious individual, religious person, lost his job and everything else. And, the child felt guilty, felt remorse because of it, and eventually came and he apologized to the man. He apologized, said, I'm so sorry what I said. I was just upset at the time and so on. And the man said, he said, take this pillow. And the pillow had lots of feathers inside of it. All right. So he said, take this pillow. He said, take it outside and cut the pillow open and shake it. Let the feathers just go all over the place. And he said, when you can get all of these feathers that have been dispersed in the wind all over the place back into the pillow, that will be when the damage that you've caused can be healed up. So we must be clear about what we're doing. How much damage, how much hurt, how much pain would occur should you see your child with some inappropriate pictures on the internet, inappropriate video on the internet? Probably would hurt. But let me ask you, what agreement do you currently have with your children? Or do you just trust? Nothing wrong necessarily with trust, but trust has its boundaries and there should be some agreements. Me and you may think something is inappropriate where they don't think something is inappropriate. All right, that is pretty obvious when it comes to like television, for example. The words and the language they use on regular television, the movies that they have out now. It's very interesting that sometimes parents don't know what their children are going to see in the movies. Or they let them go see stuff and they come back lusting from this love story and Twilight and all this other stuff that is really ridiculous. If we allow our children to get caught up in mainstream culture, then we're allowing them to get caught up in mainstream culture. If we understand that the path to Jahannam has all these desirable things and all these flashy things all around it, well, what are we doing to condition our children to let them know of the pull that's going on, but also the danger that's going on that road, to try to make that danger more painful to them than what they see as this pleasure? Because ultimately, you indulge in all the pleasures and all these other things here. That's it. You have your paradise right here on this earth, and that's it. It's over. So we know that Jibril had looked after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Jannah and created Jahannam. He saw what was put around them afterwards. We know what he said. So it's important for us to know and to have an agreement with them. So number one, how do you have an agreement with your child regarding something? The very first thing is that being the parent, being that leader, being the one that has more wisdom, we have to recognize that this is not a time for friendship. You're not their friend, you're their parent. They can have other friends. They have one father, they have one mother. So, in agreement, you ask questions. All right? And the other thing is that the property that you purchase for them is your property that you're lending to them. So you may call it your iPhone, you may call it your computer, but if I purchased it, it's actually mine, or it's ours as parents. Okay? Even if they purchased it, but they're using the electricity or something in our home for it, then the domain of control comes under responsibility of the parents, because they are still our responsibility until they're grown and gone. So simple. Those are just some ground foundational rules. Who's going to disagree with that? And if they disagree with it, it's not much to really explain it in simpler terms. Challenge is, if you have not set that standard and you've given them the friendship to go back and forth and negotiate and so on and so forth, it can be a little challenging. So I'm encouraging that you have agreement and you know the hierarchy in your relationship early. You're not being parented by your children. You are the one making the rules. They don't tell you what time they go to bed. They don't tell you to go ahead and cook and give them cakes and brownies at breakfast and they run you. No, you're the parent. You have to use your wisdom and understanding and experiences and stuff like that for their best interests, whether they like it or not, because they may not know any better. And it's highly likely they don't know any better. That's why one is children are children of the other. And we're the parents. One, you ask questions. Number two, you get a written agreement. See, when you get a written agreement as opposed to just a verbal agreement, this is a contract. There's behavior that is required. There are certain things that are required, whether it be grades in school, whether it be behavior at home, whether it's participating in different chores and family time. And there are clear rules that are set out. Now, with these clear rules, should you violate some of these rules, guess what? You lose some of these privileges. Key word is that they are privileges, not rights. They're still going to be able to eat food and drink and so on, even though it may not be what they want to eat or drink. But that's a right. You know, that's a right on them over us as parents. And we can't infringe upon that. But again, that doesn't mean they have to have the favorite food or dish that they want. But they'll eat and they'll drink. However, the privileges, that's ours all day. Just like the keys to the car. All right, the keys to the car, the bed, the mattress, my room that I'm allowing you to stay in at this time. It's not your room. Understand that. If you own the house, you're renting or leasing the home, that's yours. They're just using it for a time. See, that allows them to see it differently. Now, if this room is dirty, well, that's my room that you're not appreciating or being grateful for that you have dirty. It's different than you think is your room. Think you can do whatever you want to with it. However, that's my room that I'm letting you use while you're living here at this time. I want it clean, and it should be clean. Just a sign of gratefulness, and cleanliness is part of Iman. And I don't want to be the one to clean my room up, especially when I'm allowing you to use it for nothing, for free. That makes sense? This is just simple agreements. Now, because throughout life, they're going to have agreements. They're going to have a code of conduct when they go to school. Hey, you'll be disciplined, you'll be expelled for this. This is not fighting and bringing weapons and so on and so forth is not allowed, nor will it be accepted in school. Well, we're their parents. We are their first school. Their agreements should be the strongest with us at home, just like the code of honor that we've discussed before. So with that being said, we have more rights over them than anyone else. So we don't want to be the ones inadvertently disempowering our children by giving something without rules. Next you know, we look up, we see things that we consider inappropriate, or friends see it, or other children see it or participating in it. And that exposes our being average or below average as parents. And if it has already happened, well, alhamdulillah, make the choice to be different. Make the choice to move towards excellence. Make the choice to be better. Now, of course, our children have resources that can help them. They can use these devices for the positive. But I want to give you warnings. My name is Nazir. It means the warner, right? So I want to warn just against some basics. Because once you have that agreement, alhamdulillah, you'll feel more peaceful. Now you have a better understanding. And now your child is learning the reality. Because as they get out into the world, they're going to have contracts. They have employment contracts. They have agreements with other people and other individuals. And they're already used to this. So this is already developing a level of professionalism, but more importantly, a level of and guide of conduct. And when you have that conduct and that understanding, you can move on something a whole lot better, because that's a part of being disciplined. And as a part of being disciplined, we know that's our responsibility as that coach. So, alhamdulillah, we want to give you some coaching resources. So what I suggest for you to do, go to outstandingmuslimparents.com/teens. TEENS. Outstandingmuslimparents.com/teens. Get the worksheets that correspond with this episode. Get some different resources and different techniques, inshallah ta'ala. And may Allah ta'ala make it easy for you, especially raising young men and young women. We appreciate you tuning in. We look forward to engaging with you more. Remember to take action, because a wish changes nothing, but a decision changes everything. I'm Nazir, son of Nasib of the family Al-Mujaahid, signing off. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to working with you more. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Falling down, and you tried your best to shelter me from the coming of the storm. You opened my eyes to see that all hope was not gone. You held me in your arms and wiped away my tears. Not even in a million years can I ever repay you for what you've done for me. You were there when I felt that there was no place for me. You were there to show me how to truly believe in the miracle of creation, in the good and the bad. Oh,